The Rockwell Street Line is a subdivision of the Union Pacific Railroad in Chicago, one of the largest freight railroads in the country. Formerly owned by the Chicago and Northwestern Railway, the Rockwell Line runs in a north-south direction along Rockwell Street, from Fulton Street to the north to 12th Street, now Roosevelt Road. The alignment is to be upgraded as part of the Western Avenue Corridor portion of the Chicago Region Environmental and Transportation Efficiency Program, also known as CREATE. 14 of the subways or bridges along the Rockwell Line will be demolished and replaced as part of the project. Due to the historical significance of the Rockwell Line, it is being documented as part of the historic Illinois engineering record through this video and accompanying archival photography. In the 19th century, Chicago was the center of transportation in the United States. Ideally located at the convergence of the Great Lakes and the Chicago River, and adjacent to the prairies of the Middle West, the city was the natural midway between the industrial East and open West. The first railroad developed in Chicago was the Galena and Chicago Union Railroad, incorporated in 1836. Other railroads quickly followed and extended lines throughout Illinois and other states, particularly in the South and West. By 1853, Chicago's railroads connected to the East Coast, and soon thereafter, freight and passenger rail lines connected Chicago to cities all over the country. Connections between rail lines linked cities and made Chicago a national railway hub. The city grew at an exponential rate, and increasing pedestrian, horse, buggy, wagon, and rail traffic at street level led to increasing congestion and numerous, often fatal accidents. Street level or at-grade crossings were increasingly problematic. When Chicago was chosen to host the Columbian Exposition of 1893, the Illinois Central Railroad proposed to separate its tracks from pedestrian and street traffic so that it could run trains quickly and efficiently to and from the fairgrounds. Its solution helped eliminate a large percentage of at-grade railroad crossing accidents. After the success of the track elevation along the Illinois Central Railroad, the city decided to elevate other tracks. On April 24, 1896, the City Council passed an ordinance requiring that the tracks of the Chicago and Northwestern, the Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Chicago, and St. Louis, known as the Panhandle, and the Chicago and Northern Pacific Railroad companies be elevated along Rockwell Street from Kinzie to the north all the way to 12th Street, covering 1.8 miles. The specified reason for requiring the elevation was to provide for safety and allow travel between neighborhoods more easily. As an added advantage, streets wouldn't have to be closed, and the work elevating the tracks would provide employment. The method that was developed by the Chicago and Northwestern Railway for elevating tracks along Rockwell Street was new and remarkably efficient. The tracks were elevated and bridges were built between Fulton Street and 12th Street, now Roosevelt Road, in 38 working days between June 4th and July 22, 1897, and during the process only one street was closed at a time. The track abutments were all faced with limestone sourced from a quarry in Duck Creek, Wisconsin, that the Chicago and Northwestern Railway Company purchased specifically for the track elevation project. The bridge at 15th Street was not part of the Rockwell Street track elevation project. It was not elevated until an ordinance was passed in 1907. Unlike the other bridges, its abutment walls are faced with concrete instead of limestone. In 1909, the Track Elevation Department of the City of Chicago published a report that summarized the results of the track elevation project. The biggest benefit and largest impact of the track elevation was the reduction of fatal and non-fatal accidents. According to the statistics provided by the Track Elevation Department, track elevation prevented 1,380 grade crossing fatalities and 2,510 non-fatal accidents. While the population in Chicago grew substantially between 1899 and 1908, the number of fatal accidents was reduced by more than 80%. Sanborn Fire Insurance maps provide a glimpse into the development between the time the tracks were elevated and several decades later. Prior to the elevation of the tracks, the map shows more sparsely developed neighborhoods, with mostly residential buildings and a few businesses. The next Sanborn map from 1922 depicts a more robust industrial neighborhood with dozens of businesses and factories flanking the tracks. There are also many new neighborhood businesses to serve the growing population in the area, such as shops, bakeries, corner bars, churches, and even a roller rink. Neighborhoods surrounding the Rockwell Line were developed. They were settled mostly by working-class Irish and German immigrants who worked for the industrial businesses that developed around the railroad tracks. In the 1940s and 50s, Madison Street was lined with thriving businesses. However, racism and redlining led to a long trend of disinvestment, further exacerbated by the 1968 riots following Reverend Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. Though the area remains largely industrial, there has been a recent uptick in development in the neighborhood. On Washington Street, a landmark warehouse building was recently converted into mixed-income loft apartments. Rockwell Gardens, a public housing project that was located alongside the tracks between Madison and Van Buren, was demolished in 2006. A new mixed-income development called City Gardens was completed in 2017, and a new city park was established where the housing project was formerly located. In 2009, an indoor hockey rink was established for youth and adult use on Madison Street, just east of the Rockwell Line. A new private Christian academy was built in 2005 between Congress and Polk to provide an alternate school option for area residents. Down by the 15th Street Bridge, an old warehouse owned by Ryerson Steel Company was converted into the Cinescape Chicago Film Studios. The East Garfield Park and Lawndale neighborhoods have not fully recovered to their former glory, but signs of rebuilding are evident all along the Rockwell Line. The Rockwell Line of the Union Pacific Railroad still functions as a freight rail line today. Planned upgrades to the track infrastructure as part of the Create Western Avenue Corridor program involves the demolition and replacement of 14 bridge structures along the Rockwell Line. Due to the age of the line, the unique method and short time span in which the tracks were elevated, and the positive impacts on the surrounding neighborhoods and city, the Rockwell Line is eligible for the National Register of Historic Places.